not saying whether this is true or not. I'm just saying it's a different perspective, and it's more in-depth stuff into why Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa may not have wanted to participate in the All-Star Game. And I think it's interesting. It comes from the Starting Nine podcast with Dallas Braden and Jared Carrabis. And these guys have been Astros trolls, but they're also very well connected with the young players in baseball. They're constantly getting the young guys on their podcast. They're front and center during the All-Star Game. I think they're having a huge hand in growing the game. So while a lot of times there's a little bit of extra sauce or a little bit of extra oomph on what they say, they aren't just pulling stuff, I don't believe, out of their ass and throwing this stuff out there. This is what people are talking about. Dallas Braden actually pitched for the A's.
That's what I was just going to say. I mean, you're talking about a major league pitcher here too, and Carrabis is one of the young faces of baseball media. He's one of those guys, and he talks to a lot of players. A lot of players shout him out and whatnot. And this is what they had to say earlier this week when they were talking about Altuve and Correa. This is in-depth on why Altuve and Correa may not want to participate in the All-Star Game and what the Astros were allegedly doing, or what players are saying they were doing going back to 2017.
Something that I heard the Astros were doing to cover their tracks in 2017 is that, say it's a weekend series against the A's, and on a Friday night, the Astros stole signs and they kicked in Sean Manaea's teeth for 8 earned runs. I'm not saying this happened to Sean Manaea, just an example. During warm-ups, stretches, the next day, guys are taking BP, both teams are out on the field. They would send a player over to the opposing team's side of the field to be like, hey man, just letting you know we had a tip on you. So then that guy would spend the next 3-4 days looking at video of himself being like, where's the fucking tip? Is it the glove? What am I doing? Where's the fucking tip? Like, obviously they had one. They beat my fucking brains in. I was going great before that. Obviously they had it. They're not going to tell me what it is, but what the fuck is it? Now these guys are overanalyzing themselves, and that could fuck up their next 2, 3, 4 starts. So, like, they were doing that to team. Like, this has nothing to do with the playoffs. I mean, position players and hitters, they're friends with each other. Like, you're doing that to one of your friends, and if you're fucking up that starter for the next 2, 3 starts, it's like, now it goes beyond just like, okay, now we suck against the Astros. Like, you this guy up for like the next couple starts. I'm not trying to get into the Astros scandal again. I'm just saying why, if Jose Altuve and Carlos Correa decided to walk into a clubhouse of players they did not play with in Houston, why that would be a very uncomfortable and awkward situation to have with questions coming their way that they're probably not prepared to answer.
It's fascinating, and it makes you think a little bit. They had to have some sort of a CYOA system working, right? Whether, because maybe somebody's like, hey man, was that a trash can I heard, or was that a this, or was that a that? And it was organized. One thing we know is that it was from the top. It was organized. It was orchestrated. So that would go down to being able to cover your tracks, right? I don't know if this is true. I'm just saying it is intriguing to listen to a guy who was very plugged in say something like that, because it makes sense. I mean, does it not?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's being said. Yeah. I'm not saying whether it's true or not, but that is clearly what's being said by players.
Yeah,
that they believe that it was not only a sign-stealing scheme, but there was an extra layer of it that effed with players. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's what's being said, and that's what's being said from players. And quite honestly, if that were the case, I mean, I think if I were Carlos Correa or Jose Altuve, I probably wouldn't want to go in that clubhouse either. Honestly.
Well, and that's the kind of thing, the other thing that makes it so interesting to me is people talk about, well, the Yankees did this too, and the Red Sox did that. Okay, whatever. We don't know. We'll see how that plays out. We only heard a few things here and there. But it would stand to reason that that's why there's so much more resentment against the Astros. Not only did they do this, but it was so much conspiracy. I mean, that's what it was. I mean, that's a definition of a conspiracy, that they even had guys going allegedly, reportedly, rumored, however you want to put it, to kind of even get in the opposing pitcher's head more and just kind of debilitate them even more, get them thinking. It's interesting.
Here, do you think Carlos Correa and Jose Altuve spoke to each other before they decided to back out of the All-Star game?
Oh, yeah.
You do?
Oh, yeah.
So
I think all four did.
They believe that as well on the Starting Nine podcast.
Yeah.
Barstool Sports, Jared Carrabis and Dallas Braden. They subscribe to that theory as well.
With Correa, I was with you. Okay. You want to rest up for the second half? Fine. Your wife is pregnant. You want to spend time with her? Fine by me. And then Altuve comes out and he's like, well, I'm not going to. Then it quickly becomes, you guys just don't want to, want to face the music.
How far apart were the announcements, the Correa and Altuve?
Couldn't have been more than an hour.
When they found out that they were selected, I'm not going. Bro, I'm not. My wife's pregnant. I'm throwing that flag out there.
Correa at least is throwing his wife in the line of fire. He's like, hey, I got a pregnant woman here. He's like one of the dudes in
Lady
the Titanic.
with a baby.
Yeah, I have a pregnant woman. here.
I love it.
Get me in a lifeboat.
But again, like, in all seriousness, Correa being a husband, future dad,
Yeah, sure.
get that, all good. But then Altuve drops that, and you're like, yeah, like I said, they had that conversation beforehand when they were both selected and it was confirmed. It's like, dude, you want to drive together? No, we ain't driving together. What do you mean together? We're not going at all. I'm not going. You going? We're not going.
All right, so that's what people are saying about the Astros. There's also a notion, and I think we might have even said it, that they didn't want to get booed. I think boos are like mosquitoes on the shoulder when it comes to the Houston Astros. And this is what they had to say on the Starting Nine podcast, courtesy of Barstool Sports, about that notion that, they just don't want to get booed.
I mean, like, people's excuses for that doesn't make sense. They've been booed all year. We're not talking about the fans. We're talking about having to go inside the clubhouse and face your peers. Mm-hmm. And then what did this other person say? That doesn't make sense. They see them every game anyway. In an opposite dugout. We're talking about sharing a clubhouse with these people.
You're legitimately going to be showering with these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even
that makes me not want to go. If I'm Correa or Altuve, I don't want to go.
Well, we talked about it.
Yeah, I don't want to go.
You and I mentioned that. I said yesterday, can you imagine sitting next to Aaron Judge?
I think it's okay. I think it's okay to admit that it would be an uncomfortable, for lack of a better term, scary situation for the Astros, and because of that, I don't blame Altuve and Correa for not going.
I've never blamed them. I said
the notion, but I don't think you have to have it both ways if you're going to defend the guys. You don't have to say they ain't scared of nothing. They want to do this. You can say, yeah, that would be an uncomfortable situation, and I doubt that they want to get on a plane to go into an uncomfortable situation and then come back and try to get the best record in the league. I think it's fine to say both things.
Yeah. I absolutely think they both can be true. And I think even the booing and the questions and it would just get so irritating on top of the worst thing being in that clubhouse. And keep in mind, this is something that has spread throughout baseball. If this is true, if this report, even just the rumor of them like trying to get in the heads of other pitchers and trying to temper why they or lie about why they knew what was coming, etc. And then you have to go into that clubhouse. No one wants to do that.
One of them does disagree with you. Jared Carrabis disagrees with you about Carlos Correa and the excuse. And
it's the weakest one.
Well, he doesn't necessarily think it's weak because he doesn't think Carlos even had a choice. He thinks Carlos did not have a choice of whether or not to back out of the All-Star game. And this is his theory, Jared Carrabis. And you can tell he is a, quote, fan of the Sparkle Princess Diaries.
Yeah. And if you've seen how insufferable they are on their YouTube channel, you would know that she's definitely the type of wife that would be like, you're not going to the All-Star game. I'm pregnant. You're not going.
Well, I haven't taken
it is
their YouTube content.
Don't do it to yourself. Like, if you want a good hate watch, if you want a good, like, I'm in the mood to piss myself off beyond, like, recovery, like I'm going to have to go to sleep and wake up the next morning to recoup my mood, watch their YouTube channel. It's fucking abysmal. It's terrible. It pisses me off to no end. Good job. If I'm in too good of a mood and I'm just like, we need to come back down, I watch Carlos Correa and his wife's YouTube channel.
I don't know why I appreciate this absolute disdain right now.
Yeah, that's fucking terrible.
All right, so
he's
saying maybe Carlos didn't have a choice, which I could see.
Maybe, but that still makes his excuse the weakest. He doesn't disagree with. I mean, his excuse is the weakest, whether it was her or him. which I think it could have been a little bit of both. But they had a nice Instagram picture with his face on her pregnant belly.
And the gender reveal watch is on.